Hello everyone, welcome to the full course on prompt engineering, and you can use this course to write better prompts and to be able to create your own prompts to get the best output from ChatGPT as well as other language learning models. So this course is going to enable you to catch fish rather than just looking for a fish. So what I mean is you do not need to look for prompts online. If that's what you've been doing, you have not mastered the art of prompt engineering. Once you know how this works, you'll be able to write your own prompts to make the best out of these tools. And this is a highly valuable skill in 2024 and beyond. So let's get started. The first thing we need to understand is what is a language learning model? What is this thing all about? So the best way to understand is to actually ask a language learning model what it's all about. So that's what I did here. As you can see, I just asked ChatGPT, can you explain what you are? Now, whenever you have a doubt about how AI works and how language learning models work, I do want to say that you have to also do your own research, because there are a lot of restrictions because of which the answers are now slightly more politically correct than what they used to be before coming from AI, right? So in this case, it says, certainly, I'm an AI language model created by OpenAI called ChatGPT. My purpose is to understand and generate human-like text based on the input I receive. Now, this is important to understand that ChatGPT is a text-based model. Okay. Now, however, the updates that are happening with Gemini coming and ChatGPT's new versions, you will see that there is also image-based input that is acceptable. With some of the language learning models, you might need an extension to do that. However, in this course, we're going to cover the prompt engineering for a text-based language learning model. And majorly, ChatGPT was developed to be text-based, while Gemini, for example, was developed to be image, video, and multiple media, as well as text-based. This is why you will see that it's way more effective to use Gemini with a text input or a media input. So in this video, we are not really going to discuss which is the best AI tool, etc. We're just going to learn the prompt patterns, because this course, the prompt patterns are going to apply to any tool that you use. That's the most important thing to understand here. Okay, so you can think of me as a computer program, though remember that this is not a computer program. You can think of it as a computer program. However, it's way more than just a computer program, right? So I can understand language, generating text, and to some extent provide helpful responsive to queries. So this is all politically correct language that they've included now, but before it was a very different answer. It was very straightforward that I will help you with responses like a human, right? So they've changed it now to make sure that they're not getting into any concerns or issues with authorities. So let's move on. That's what a language learning model is as per ChatGPT. Now, just let me quickly cover what I want to explain you. A language learning model is basically a model that has been trained on a lot of data and text, primarily understanding text input and giving you an output from that database. That's the basic thing that you need to understand. There is a lot of data and information that is available with this thing. Think of it like a big set of data. You ask an input and it gives you the best output possible. The better your input is, the better the output is going to be. And that's why you're here taking this course, because you want to improve the input that you're asking. People are selling prompts. The reason people are selling prompts is they are saying, I have the best way to give input. And you're buying those prompts because you think that using those prompts, you'll get the best output, right? So why not learn how to make your own prompts? So that brings me to the point of prompt patterns, okay? So there is a difference between prompts and prompt patterns. Prompts are these statements that you can copy from someone. So someone can sell you prompts for digital marketing, prompts for entrepreneurship, prompts for design, prompts for copywriting. But if you understand prompt patterns, you can develop prompts in any of these areas and fields yourself. So it's important to look for patterns, and I'll show you examples of patterns so that you understand better. So look for patterns so that you're able to write good prompts. For example, this particular image has been created by AI. I've used Microsoft Copilot to create this image, and I've given it certain input. You can see that the person is female, slightly Indian looking. The eyes are wide open, trying to understand patterns. Those are all things that have been coming from the pattern, from the prompt that I gave in, and the prompt is based on certain patterns, right? So again, we are going to focus on the text-based prompt patterns, and we're going to start with the first one, which is the persona type pattern. Honestly, this is the most useful pattern if you want to get an output as a expert or as a specific persona. So let me show you this example, right? So in this example, I asked ChatGPT, act as a nutrition expert. So let's break it down, okay? What this does is it tells the model to go into its data set and think about, if it was a nutrition expert, what is all the information that it had access to. So the data set is huge, you can't even imagine how big it is. But what would a nutrition expert know, right? Even better if I would have asked ChatGPT, act as a nutrition expert with 10 years of experience who consults busy founders and entrepreneurs on nutrition, right? And has studied nutrition science for 5 years. Now it's going to try to get the expert of the expert in nutrition and then access all the data, all the science, all the studies about nutrition within less than a second, access all of that, and then go into understanding my question and answer my question. So you see what I did here? I filtered down the model to become to access a specific data, review all of that data, and then answer my question based on that information. That's the persona type pattern or the expert prompt pattern. Some people actually categorize these two as different patterns, but I like to keep it as one because they are both one application of another. So act as a nutrition expert. I want you to create a meal plan for the next week. I'm a pescatarian and I need 100 grams of protein per day. I want to feel energized or energy throughout the day and prioritize my protein intake. Even if you put wrong grammar or even wrong spellings in a prompt, it doesn't really matter. AI fixes it for you before answering it. Can you make a list of things I should eat and should not eat before proceeding with the meal plan? So now, important thing to understand is I've gone into details about exactly what I need. You may not have that much information. And there is a prompt pattern where you can actually use it to get the information from the AI tool to be able to understand what input to give it. In this case, I knew what input to give it because I've done enough research about my body and my fitness and my nutrition, right? But the important thing is act as a nutrition expert is going to focus on that. You could do act as an entrepreneur, you could do act as a digital marketer, you could do act as an expert copywriter, you could say act as a social media manager with 20 years of experience or 10 years of experience, you could say act as a personal finance consultant and build my portfolio, you could say act as a longevity expert and tell me how I can extend my lifespan. So there's so much you can do with this act as a prompt pattern, and you'll see this prompt pattern in a lot of examples. If you worked with any of the prompts in the past or you've purchased a prompt, you might see a lot of them are following this pattern, and now you have to look for those patterns. So based on this, the output of ChatGPT is pretty decent, and it's given me different protein sources, and I haven't put the entire screenshot yet, followed by a sample meal plan for a week. So it's actually broken down Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, what I should be eating on each day, and so forth. You could try this for yourself as well. Now let's get to the next one, which is the scenario creation. Okay, let's move this up. Scenario creation is where you literally ask the language learning model to imagine something. Now, what happens when you ask it to imagine something? It's not a person, so it's not like really just daydreaming. It actually imagines by finding data points and information from its model to become that and how that person would address that situation. So imagine you are a startup mentor describing how top founders manage teams. Now it's going to find examples from its data because it has been fed with all of these examples of startup mentors and how they actually describe top founders managing teams. Now, if you were to go on YouTube and look for a startup mentor or have a one-on-one call with a startup mentor, they'll tell their version of how top founders should manage teams. But in this case, you're getting the collective knowledge of a lot of startup mentors that was trained or fed into the language learning model. So this imagination or imagine you are is slightly similar to act as if or act as a, but you can actually go beyond a persona in this case and say imagine a situation where. So it's not just about a person. In this case, we are saying imagine you're a startup mentor, but you can say imagine there is a situation where you're running Facebook ads but you're not getting enough ROAS from your ads. And these are the campaigns that you're running, and these are the kinds of creatives you're running, and this is the target audience that you have. What are you doing wrong? Or this is the copy that you're using, but it's not getting enough CTRs. Imagine that you were the person managing these campaigns. Imagine a situation where there is a World War III. Which countries would you go to live, to hide? Right? So you could just make imaginary situations out of everything. This is the scenario creation. So you're building a scenario and asking the language learning model to respond to that particular scenario. Okay, so those were some examples. Now, let's go back to, now let's look at prompt pattern 3, which is compare and contrast. This is great if you're learning about something new and you want to understand the differences from something that you already know about. Or let's say you're a student who's working on an article about the differences of certain things. So you could say compare and contrast the advantages of traditional and digital marketing. So in this case, you're not saying what's the difference between traditional and digital marketing, but you're saying compare and contrast the advantages. So these are the ways that traditional marketing could help, while these are the ways that digital marketing could help. That's the kind of output that you're expecting. Then you also have a step-by-step instructions pattern where you could write down how-to guides using this prompt. For example, you could write down SOPs for your company using this. There are so many applications that you can do. You can even build your routines and habits using this, where you say, provide a step-by-step guide on X. So in this case, we are saying on setting up a successful email marketing campaign. You could actually publish this as a how-to guide, as a blog article, or use it as an SOP for your company. This is something that we use a lot as part of our agency, especially when we're creating docs for clients, right? The next one is pros and cons. So in this case, you can actually ask, what are the pros and cons of using social media? Let's say you're not sure about something and you just want to understand both sides. This is a good way of analyzing things that we anyways do as humans. So we're just using the input from AI. Now everything is accelerated because of AI, right? So we can discuss the pros and cons with AI. You can then go back to the AI model and say, I think this is not a con, this is more like a pro, and then see what it comes back with, right? So you can make this into a full conversation, right? Next is a flipped interaction pattern, and this sixth one is really useful. So let me focus on this, right? Now, I'll take a little bit more time on this one. So flipped interaction means this is similar to the example that I was trying to give you before, where I was saying maybe you don't know what the right question to ask is to the AI model. So you could flip the interaction. You could instead ask the AI model to tell you what you should tell it in order to get the answers, right? So here's an example. I would like you to ask me questions to help me create marketing experiments. Now I could have gone as a growth marketeer, and I have over a decade of experience in growth marketing. I could say, okay, this is all the information, this is the target audience, these are the channels, this is the business, this is the end product or service, this is the USP, this is the ICP. I could say all of those things and then say create marketing experiments. But maybe you don't know what those inputs are and you're a beginner. You might just go and say, you ask me the questions that you need to know from me in order to create marketing experiments, or a budget for this year, or my own personal goals. You might even ask it to create your personal goals based on your values, your morals, what your life looks like, right? Or your personal finance portfolio, or your investing plan, or your fitness plan, right? Or a business plan, or a plan for you to make side hustle income. So you should ask questions until you have sufficient information about my current offer, audience, and goals. Ask me the first question, right? And then go on, answer the questions. Once you've answered all the questions, you'll end up with this beautiful plan, right? So flipped interaction, very useful if you're a beginner in any field, right? You don't know what to, like I want to start learning Spanish. I don't know anything about Spanish. Flipped interaction. I would like you to guide me on step-by-step process of how I can learn Spanish and what a good lesson plan for me. Ask me any questions about my language, my current languages, what languages I speak, or anything you need to know in order to make this learning plan for me, right? So maybe I know a little bit of Spanish. Then I can tell ChatGPT that I know this much Spanish. Or maybe I speak Hindi and I can tell ChatGPT, I speak Hindi. Are there any similar words or similar patterns? Right? So those things can happen. Next, let's look into applications of patterns. So we've learned around six prompt patterns, and these are really common prompt patterns. So as you go around looking at prompts, you'll be able to recognize these patterns as well. Now let's see what's the advantage and application of patterns, right? So the biggest advantage, like I said, is if you have patterns, you can create unlimited prompts. And here's an example. So I say prompt as an expert nutritionist, discuss the benefits and risks of a low carb diet. Now you could ask this about any diet or about any particular food, etc. And all of your food questions will be answered. And this is literally a prompt that is being sold in a nutrition expert is actually selling a PDF of prompts. And this is a prompt, but this is a prompt pattern, right? If you think about it, this is a act as a. Now, if you just remove the act as an expert nutritionist, the answer could be very different. And that's what these people are selling. They are selling that they understand how prompt patterns work. And now you basically can stop buying all of these prompts because you can write unlimited prompts. That's the application of a pattern, right? Now, let's try to recognize the pattern in this prompt. Okay. So the prompt was, as an expert nutritionist, discuss the benefits and risk of a low carb diet. Now the part one of the prompt was explain the LLM to act as persona X. So what's the persona X? Expert nutritionist is the persona X. Part two is tell the LLM to perform the task Y, which is discuss the benefits and risk of a low carb diet. Now it sounds very straightforward, but it's so useful and beautiful because now you could take this and apply it to any field, any industry. Explain the LLM to act as a persona, tell the LLM to perform the task. If it's a famous celebrity, you could even explain, you could say act as Steve Jobs and design a device to do blah, blah, blah. So now it's going to focus on, thinking different. Now it's going to focus on making the user experience better, making it so beautiful that people want to lick the screen or whatever Steve Jobs standard for, right? So those kinds of things will come out of the database if you write this prompt pattern. Okay, so this is the persona prompt pattern. So this is the activity where you can actually look for all these prompts and then find prompt patterns. That's going to make you a prompt engineer because you're able to understand these prompt patterns. Okay, here's another example. I said, I'm starting to build an investment portfolio. What are the key steps and considerations I should keep in mind? Ask me any questions that you may need to help me build the portfolio. Right? So maybe I'm a marketing expert, but not an expert in investing or a personal finance thing, right? So in that case, I can ask it, what are the questions that I should tell you? What are the things that I should tell you so that you can build this amazing portfolio for me? And says, what are your primary financial goals? That's a good one. Do you have, many people start investing without a goal, which is not a bad idea as per me, but if you were a personal finance and consultant, you would ideally ask for the goals. Do you have a specific time frame in mind? How comfortable, how much risk can you take? How risk averse are you? Do you understand diversification? How important is this for you? Maybe you can say, no, I don't understand. Please explain me diversification. And this whole thread can actually teach you so much about personal finance, right? How long do you plan to keep your investments before needing to access the funds? These kinds of people who ask these questions take a lot of money from us. And now we have just access to these tools that can help us do this. This is amazing, the world that we live in today, right? So this is another example where I have said, I am starting to build an investment portfolio and asked a question. And if you were able to recognize it, yes, this is a flipped interaction pattern that I explained you earlier. So I have asked the AI tool to ask me questions in order to give me the best input to the tool in order to eventually get at the output, which is my investing portfolio. So it's not a direct prompt. So it's not a single shot prompt, right? A single shot prompt is you give the prompt, you get the output. Usually the most effective prompts are going to be conversational, right? Going to be multiple shots. Okay. So there's also chain of thought prompting where you're going and building your thought alongside. So there are different kinds of prompts, not as important as the prompt personas, I feel, as prompt patterns, I feel, sorry. So once you're able to recognize the prompt patterns, you're basically done. So with these examples, I hope it gives you a lot of clarity of how you can do that. Now you've understood all of these different prompt patterns as well. So let's just recap everything now, the key takeaways that we've got from the course. The first thing that we need to understand is we need to focus on prompt patterns instead of just prompts. So you won't have to buy or look for prompts if you understand prompt patterns. And then for that, you have to learn the common prompt patterns. So we learned 6 different common prompt patterns in this short course. Then you should be able to use the patterns for various applications. Now, if you want to learn more examples and more prompt patterns, I have a free course on prompt engineering, which I will put a link in the video description as well. So you can take that. There's around 15 different prompt patterns that I've covered in the course with different examples as well, right? And once you practice this enough, you'll be able to identify prompt patterns and be able to write any prompt using these patterns. So that's my final activity for you, or assignment for you, is to practice this and look for prompt patterns when you look at prompts. That's the thing that's going to make you the best prompt engineer, and that's going to make you stand out from the rest. So that's all for this course. I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed this, just leave a comment so I can make more tutorials on AI if this is a topic you're interested in. Till then, thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.